same as with you, God told me that this was over. I would not have never decided that I'm just going to leave my career like this just at the drop of a dime like that. It truly was God. I started getting like these downloads about my career when I started All Rise. And I was really like, I was shocked because I'm like, no, this is not what I'm hearing. Like, I surely, Holy Spirit, you are not telling me that this is not it for me. I have something more for you. I kept hearing bigger. And I'm like, well, this is where I want it to be.
Welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Kickback with Carrie podcast. I'm your host, Carrie Henderson, and today we are international. We are talking to someone all the way in Japan. I met today's guest when we were in California. She was a makeup artist. I was working as a wardrobe stylist, and today we're talking all about pivoting. When God gives you the call to pivot, what does that look like? What do you do? Now she's a stay-at-home mom living in Japan, and she has a YouTube channel. So we're going to talk all about finding your own identity as a stay-at-home mom, self-care, and everything else in between. Please welcome Brittany Ingram.
Yay! Hey. Hi, guys.
Brittany, I want to start with, because you were a celebrity makeup artist. That's how we met in California. Mm-hmm. I don't remember what shoot we met on, but we met on a shoot, and then maybe it was Create Her?
It was Create Her for sure. I don't know if we met the first time with Brisha, because I want to say it might have been with Brisha Webb.
Oh yeah, maybe.
Mm-hmm. But because by the time we did, it was Brisha.
Brisha was that the first one? Because that was a fun shoot. But so you started off as a makeup artist. Tell us, like, how did you? I don't even think I ever knew your story, like how you got into doing makeup in Hollywood.
Yeah.
So how did you start?
I actually started at the Mac counter, and I moved when I graduated from college. I went to Winston-Salem State University, Rams. And when I moved from North Carolina to come to California, I knew I needed to start at Mac, so I started working at the Mac counter. And at the Mac counter is where I met Tyra Banks. And although she wasn't she walked into the Mac counter at Century City. And by this time, I had already been doing makeup for Mac for like 4 years. So, I felt I was the manager of that counter at this time. So, of course, I'm like, look, she's my client. Okay, I'm the manager. Right? She's my client right now. I'm going to be taking care of Tyra. So, it was really interesting because, of course, you're not supposed to like give your card out or whatever. But I'm like, this is Tyra Banks. I'm giving her my card. So I just took a chance. I gave her my card and let her know, like, hey, if you ever need a makeup artist, like, here's my card, contact me. And she did. So she was my first, like, big client. I did Kavon Edmonds. He was my first celebrity client ever. And I did him for something for BET. But that's pretty much, like, how I got into doing makeup professionally. I started at the Mac counter. And then once I started working with Tyra, I just kept putting myself out there to try and meet people and kept networking with people. You know how we do in LA, you network and, you meet photographers, you meet wardrobe stylists, and you meet people that are creating, you meet other creatives. And that's pretty much how I got started.
I think I never knew that. That's amazing. Like, literally. But see, that's the thing about LA too. Like, if someone saw Tyra Banks anywhere else, you'd be like, oh my gosh, it's Tyra, right? Like, it's a big deal to see celebrities in places, but out in LA, they're literally everywhere, just like anybody else, because they all live there. So it's not uncommon to see somebody at the mall, go to a Mac counter, and I'm not mad at you giving out your card. This is what you came out there for, so listen.
I mean, hey, I told myself I'm coming to LA to do the stars. And it was very strategic in my move to Century City because I was working at Baldwin Hills. And so I knew I needed to relocate if I wanted to even be around celebrities because that was my goal. And I'm like, I want to do, celebrities. That was what I wanted to do. I wanted to do television and film. So it was like, okay, well, I have to put myself in that environment. Like, they're not going to come see me, I mean, so I wanted to go to the Grove, but then I got Century City, and I'm like, okay, this is Beverly Hills adjacent. We can do this. We're going to see somebody. And that's how it worked.
So after Tyra, what are some projects that you worked on in Hollywood? Because you had Tyra. So who are some other celebrity clients that you had, or some shows, film that you were working on when you were out there?
So oddly enough, when I met Tyra, it's around the same time I met my husband. So as soon as I met Tyra, I got married, we got pregnant, I moved to Japan for 18 months. So
Oh,
at that
really?
time, I felt like I just started, I just got to a place in my career where I was, you know, doing, A-list celebrities or whatever, and now I have to move.
Yeah.
So I didn't know what my career, where it was going. And when we got back, I reached back out to Tyra, and she was doing a show called Fab Life at the time. And so I reached out to her and I said, hey, Tyra, I'm back in LA. And she's like, cool, can you work next week? And I'm like, yes, but
Right.
you know what I mean? And she was doing a show called Fab Life. And so I went on her show and I was doing makeup for her show. We did a couple segments for that. And then shortly after that, I got with an agency and I started doing different projects. Like I started working with like Phylicia Rashad. One of my friends introduced me to Angela Bassett. I started doing work for her. And then, let me back up. I started working on All Rise.
I think I
But I
remember
got
you
my
posting
agent.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, when I got a friend of mine introduced me to this agency, and once I started working with the agency, they sent me on a project for Netflix, and I think it was called Black Leads. I believe it was Black Leads, and Simone Missick was there, and she needed someone to fix her makeup. I wasn't there for her, but she had a makeup artist there, I think. I'm not sure, but she needed someone to fix her makeup, and I was there and willing to do it, of course, and we just hit it off right away. And so Simone Missick called me one day, and she was like, hey, I have a show coming to LA, and I want to know if you're available. So that's when I started to do All Rise, and I think that was 2018. And so I did All Rise for a while until that. Well, I did All Rise until 2020, until the pandemic.
Pandemic.
So yeah.
So pandemic. So you did all of this. Did you also do one of the Steve Harvey shows?
I did. How did I forget that? How did I forget that? Oh my gosh!
I remember you talking about posting about the Steve Harvey show.
How did I forget that? Oh my goodness! Yes. Oh my goodness! Yes, I worked with a young lady and a photographer. Speaking of networking, I was working with a photographer, and he was like, "Hey, I have a young lady who is working with someone on her project, basically like branding and stuff, and they're looking for a makeup artist." So I went to her house and I did her makeup, and of course, I'm just me. When I go in to do my job, I'm going to do my job. And she was just so impressed, and her husband was impressed. And so her husband came up to me and he was like, are you working on a show right now? Do you want to work on a show? And I'm like, yes. I had just gotten back from Japan. I was like, I was ready to work. Fab Life wasn't consistent at that time. I was just going on to do segments. And so I'm like, yes. And he was like, okay, I have a job that's coming to LA. At the time, I think Steve was in Chicago. So he's like, I have a job coming to LA. And if you want the job, you got the job. And I got the job on the spot to be the head makeup artist for the Steve Harvey show. I had never worked television before. I wasn't even in the union. It was amazing. It was nothing but God. And so I started working with Steve Harvey at Steve Harvey show when they moved from Chicago to LA, and I want to say that was 2018.
Wow. That's a testament to your work, though. If you get hired on the spot like that and you're not unionized, because I know that's always a big deal too. When you're in LA, it's like, are you union? If you're not union, can you do certain jobs? Can you not do certain jobs? So kudos to you, friend.
Thank you. I just was being myself, and that's what got me really in the door.
So you back in LA, you did work with Tyra, All Rise, Steve Harvey show, pandemic hits, and then we all go through a crisis. And then the pandemic hits. So I know I had posted, so I moved to LA in 2017. And so by 2021, for those people that don't know, listening and watching, March of 2021, up until that point during COVID, I was posting like styling content online. I was trying to get virtual. I was sitting in my house recording, like making YouTube videos, doing all the things, posting on LinkedIn. And I woke up one morning in March and was like, yeah, I don't want to do none of that anymore. And I haven't felt that way. I felt that way ever since. Like, I have not had a desire to do styling at all. And people always ask me, they're like, well, what made you not want to do styling anymore? Because I had been pursuing that career for like 10 years. And I told him, God, he was just like, yep, it's a wrap. It's over. And I remember posting about that. And then you messaged me. You're like, hey, so can we talk? Because I think I'm having a similar experience. So what was going on, or what happened for you that was just like, yeah, I have this beautiful, amazing career in Hollywood, but I think it's a wrap.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, Carrie. It's so crazy how you and I both went through the same thing at the same time. But honestly, it was comforting because it let me know, like, okay, A, you're not alone, you're not crazy, and this totally could happen. Like, And so, same as with you, God told me that this was over. I would not have never decided that I'm just going to leave my career like this at the drop of a dime like that. It truly was God. I started getting like these downloads about my career when I started All Rise. And I was really like, I was shocked because I'm like, no, this is not what I'm hearing. Like, surely, Holy Spirit, you are not telling me that this is not it for me. I have something more for you. I kept hearing bigger. And I'm like, well, this is where I wanted to be. I wanted to do, television. And in a way that I was doing like episodics. So you're making more money. It's more consistent. It's not like daytime TV. You're on a totally different roster with a union. Like, you have made it, but outside of like doing, movies. And I was well on my way because I was already getting offers to do movies like in Atlanta and things like that. Yeah, at that time it was 2019, and I just was like ignoring the signs, and just, surely this is not what I'm hearing, And once the pandemic hit, we had just had our baby, January 13th, 2020. My husband went on deployment 3 days later. Wow. So I had, our daughter who was 5, and we had a newborn. And the pandemic hit like in March of 2020. And during this time, while he was gone and we were going through the pandemic, I created a prayer closet, and where I was really like talking to God about everything that was happening, the pandemic, our new baby, we had just bought a new home in Menifee. Like, there were so many things that were happening, him being on deployment. Our mother-in-law had came to stay with us for a while to help us out. And it was just like a time where I just felt like I have to connect with God. And during that time is when I started to really get confirmation that my career was over. Like, this is, we're done here. And I was laying in bed one night, and I was talking to a friend who happened to be a hairstylist. He was a hairstylist on the Steve Harvey show. He became a really good friend of mine. And I was talking to him. Well, before I called him, I was laying in bed, and that's when the confirmation came, like, this is over. And the only thing I could do, Carrie, was cry. But the tears were not tears of sadness. It was almost like a chapter was like a chapter was closed. You know what I mean? And I wasn't grieving it. It was just like, this is done. I got that confirmation that I needed. So I called him. He knew that I had been kind of talking about this, like, hey, I think I'm done. And once I called him and told him, like, this is it, I'm done, he was like, wow, you're done. I said, yep, I'm done.
Yeah. It's almost like it's like a peace, because I know during COVID I was by myself, and so me and Jesus talked a lot during that time. Okay, there were some. I was fine for a good 6 months, and I tell people all the time, I'm like, by September though, we were having a whole crying fest in my bedroom, on my knees in the floor, like, it was just too much because I think it was easy to find yourself to try to be distracted during that time because like you can't go anywhere, you don't know what's happening, we don't know how long it's gonna last. I know I was talking to my parents on Zoom like every week, but I was still literally by myself. I would go outside just not to lose my mind and like walk around the neighborhood. But I was the same way. I was like, Make Room by Jonathan McReynolds. I had that song. All the views he has on YouTube, I probably and the reason he has more than half of them, I played that song on YouTube so many times. And similar to you, I started having conversations during COVID. Like up until that point, I knew I wanted to do styling. But during COVID, I started talking to one of my friends. She and I were like each other's saving grace. Mm-hmm. And I would be telling her, like, I feel like there got to be more than just styling, though. It's just like the purpose got to be bigger than just that. Like, yes, I love helping people look their best and feel their best. But it's almost like that experience sometimes is almost like a drug because like you have to do all this work. You have this moment where you're in a high and then it's over literally in 2 seconds. They walk the red carpet or you have the photo shoot and it's like, okay, on to the next thing. Like it's almost so quick. And I told her, I was like, there just has to be more to this. And I remember listening to a sermon and one of the sermons was about like basically your sacrifice. Like what are you willing to sacrifice? Like are you willing to basically sacrifice something that God gave you? And I was like, I wonder if styling is my sacrifice. And then a couple weeks later, it was like, oh, I'm not doing this anymore. And I'm okay with that. And people were like, how do you feel? I'm like, I'm fine. Like, do you miss it? No.
And that was, when you said that like that, that's what for me was like really comforting. Because once it was done for me, like the desire was gone. It was crazy because everybody, that's how I met so many of my adult friends was through makeup. And so that's all they knew. I met my husband as a makeup artist. That's all he knew. And so coming to him and most of my friends and letting them know like, hey, makeup is done. They were like, what are you talking about?
Exactly.
Like, it was so hard for them
to
understand that. And I get that. But for me, the desire was completely gone. It was like, I don't desire to pick up a brush at all. You know what I mean? I don't desire to go back. And I even tested myself. And of course, I still follow all of my peers. And I just wanted to see, like, am I going to miss it? Let me follow, let me continue to like put myself in a place mentally where, do I still feel drawn to it? And I don't. I'm like, go girl. I'm rooting for you, girl. I am rooting for you. You hear me?
Actually,
I am.
Yeah.
I don't feel that feeling.
I think I got 3 job offers too after I made the decision not to. I was like, this is the real test. Because one of them was when I had worked on the previous year. And I was like, oh, I know this would be good money right before I move back home. I could make a good $2,000 to $3,000 if I did this one. But I was like, but if I take it, I already know I'm going to be in my field. Like, I'm going to be upset. Because I'm like, I could be packing right now. This is not what I'm supposed to be doing. So I'm like, that was a true test. I had 3. It was literally like, the minute I decided no, I was like, oh, one of my friends texted me like, do you want to style this person? I was like, no. She was like, you answered that a little too quick. I was like,
I know.
She was like, she's your ideal client. I was like, and I kept telling everybody, oh, I'm taking a break. So I'm like, oh no, I'm taking a break from styling. Even the stylist that I was assisting, he would call me that summer and I was at home visiting. And I was like, no, I'm taking a break. And he even told me when I went back to like pack up and leave, he was like, I knew you were done when you said you were taking a break. Like, I could tell. It's over. I was like,
yeah. And it's funny because I always knew, like even during my makeup career, I always knew that my career was bigger than lipstick and mascara. And I would always say that. Like, my career is bigger than lipstick and mascara. But I don't know what that means. I still really don't know what that means. I still feel like God is still bringing everything together for me. But what helped me, like, really transition out was that we moved back to Japan. So I knew we already had our new orders. I knew we were leaving. I knew when we were leaving. So me saying, hey, this career is over and I'm starting a new chapter, it felt a little seamless. It's like, okay, we can transition pretty easy here because I'm literally relocating. And so that's what helped me. But I like, similar to you, my agency, she's a beast. She was a beast. The agency that I was attached to, she wasn't trying to hear what I was trying to say.
She was like, no, ma'am, we're not doing
that. I'm done. She's like, yeah, but so we have, I'm like, she kept
like, no.
sending me emails because she was like, Brittany, I ain't listening to you, because she didn't believe me. And I was like, well, I knew. I was like, okay, well, she'll send me an email and I'm literally going to be gone. I'm not going to be here to accept the offer or to deny it, whatever. So that's kind of what helped me.
So how was that transition? So when you moved back to Japan, you basically giving up this career. And I think for both of us, we were our identity was kind of tied up into what we did. I know for me anyway, I was like, when I moved back home, I spent a year, I was like, what am I going to do next? And I was like, just chill. Like, focus on what you have going on and just relax and go outside, hang out with your friends. Just take a breather, because I'm the type that I'm always like, I need to know what's next. Like, what's happening next? So when you guys moved back to Japan, like, what was that transition like for you? Now that you're no longer doing makeup, you're back all the way around the world in another country with your kids, your husband's deployed again. So what was that transition like for you?
It was rough. I did know that coming back to Japan was supposed to be our next step, because during the pandemic, while my husband was on deployment, I did reach out to him or email him and tell him, hey, if we get an opportunity to go back to Japan, like I want to go, and we were already thinking about, we knew we wanted to have another baby after Willow, our second child. So we knew we wanted to expand and, grow our family even more. So once all of these things started to come to me, Japan definitely was dropped in my spirit. So my husband was like, look, we just bought this house in California. We ain't going, when I get back, I'm ready to come back home when we get off of this deployment that we're, during a pandemic, I'm ready to come home and settle. I don't want to move. And I totally understood that. And I was like, well, we don't have to leave now. I was just saying in the future. Mm-hmm. And literally, I want to say a couple weeks later, he texted me or emailed or called me or whatever. I forgot how we were communicating. I think it was through email mainly. He was like, hey, if you want to go to Japan, we can go, when I get back. And I'm like, really? And he's like, yeah, we can go. And so the opportunity presented itself. We took it. We sold our house. Our house didn't even make it to the market. So the transition was easy coming, to make the decision to come to Japan, because I felt like that was what God was telling me to do. God was telling me to leave this career and turn inward to my family. That's what I kept hearing, turn inward. And the transition from being a working mom and a working woman to being now back in Japan as a stay-at-home mom, that has been quite the transition. Yes. Let me just say it's not been easy for sure, because I was tied. My identity was tied up into my career, 100%. Most of my adulthood life, that's what, before having kids, it was just that was what my goal was, to be successful, and to, whether it was, from going to college, then moving to LA, and then becoming successful as a makeup artist. And then, once we got married, and continuing my career. But now, it's okay, I'm a stay-at-home mom. My family is my assignment. Mm-hmm. And that has been interesting and has been challenging. And it has definitely challenged me in ways my makeup career has never challenged me.
So what's some of those challenges?
Oh my goodness, girl. Well, raising kids in general, when you have little children, patience, okay? Trying to figure out this role in a way that makes it feel, I'm just to be transparent, feels fulfilling, I think when you come from a working mom, your job fills you up, and when you are a working woman and your identity is tied into your career, that's it. It fills you up. It fills up your cup, Yeah. And for me, I have been struggling with letting being a mother be enough for me to fill my cup, and not worry about what I'm doing in terms of career and the title and things like that, because I could be a makeup artist yesterday if I wanted to. I could do makeup in Tokyo if I wanted to. I could probably be doing some television work out here if I wanted to. I know that. So I'm okay, it's not that. it's me really settling into where God has positioned me in this moment. And just settling into it, figuring this whole thing out. And it's been quite a journey, because motherhood in general is just tough. Okay. Mm-hmm. Whether you are a working mom or you're a stay-at-home mom, whether you are a single mom or you have a partner, it's a tall order, and we have 3 kids. So I'm just trying to find my groove. My husband has left and went on patrol a few times, so trying to solo parent at times have been difficult, away from family, really not having help, feeling isolated, feeling going through a little bit of postpartum depression and battling that, trying to find my footing with my spiritual journey with God, and just really saying, okay, God, you have me in this place. I know you brought me here. Mm-hmm. What are we doing?
Right.
Yeah, why am I feeling like this? What are we doing? Like, I didn't expect for it to be so hard. I didn't. But because God called me to it, I guess initially I felt like this was it. It's going to be easy, but that's not always the case. Just because God calls you to something doesn't mean that it's going to be easy. And I've learned that.
Preach. Because we always be like, oh, he's taking us here. It's about to be a cakewalk.
It's about to be a breeze.
Right. Like, because God said, let's go. We in there. And we're just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, gird your loins. Gird your loins, because it's going to be a journey. It's going to be a journey. And that's really what it's been. I mean, we've been here 3.5 years now. It'll be 4 years.
It's been that long now?
Yes, Carrie.
Dang.
We came here in September of 2021.
Oh, so you moved the same time I did.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, our journey was so parallel. It was crazy.
I don't know if I realized we moved at the same time. But when we talked, like, I knew we both were like, okay, we're done. But I didn't realize it was the same month too. Oh, wow.
Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's probably helpful, because maybe that's one of those, like, God needs to, God needed to give you, like, hey, if I'm doing it somebody else, you're not, like you said before, like, you're not by yourself, and you need the confirmation of, like, I'm not crazy. Like, I'm not the only one feeling this way.
Yeah.
And like, no, you're not. So what are some things, because, you have to transition, and I know it can be isolating at times. Like, what are some things that you have done, excuse me, to just, like, take care of Brittany? Like, you have your kids, you're a wife, you're maintaining your household, you're in another country. Like, what are you doing to take care of you?
So after we had our last baby in September of 2022, I really started to feel that a little bit of that postpartum. And I knew I needed to take care of me. So I started, like, doing more self-care stuff, like really taking time for myself and being intentional about trying to take little moments for myself, because I knew I had to. I knew I needed it, and it was something that I wanted, but it's been a challenge trying to figure out that balance of self-care and also being a mother and a wife, because they depend on me. They are looking to me, and it doesn't always fit. Like, even my self-care time doesn't always fit, like, when my kids need me. So at some point I'll have to, like, say, well, I was going to go to the spa at Tuesday at 9 a.m., but then somebody gets the flu or somebody is throwing up all night. And it's like, well, there you go. So I decided to implement more self-care things for myself, taking little small moments throughout the day to do something for myself, to fill up my own cup, whether that be 30 minutes or, whatever that looks like throughout the week. A Friday evening, a Saturday morning, or something like that. And again, it's easier said than done. It's easier to say, hey, I'm going to be more intentional about self-care and implement these things, because in my mind, I'm thinking, surely I can do that. Surely I can have 30 minutes, or surely I can have an hour, surely I can have a day. But when you have a family, that it's not going to always work out that way. You know what I mean? So I have to, at some point, be a lot more flexible when it comes to my self-care. And I've had to learn that. I've had to learn that I had to be flexible as it pertains to self-care, because it was frustrating at first when I felt like, hey, I'm going to go to the spa Tuesday at 9 a.m. and I didn't get to do it. I'm like, that was my time, but that was my time. I've been waiting, whatever. Yeah. And then I don't get to do it because of, whatever. So that has been a challenge. I did decide to start dibbling and dabbling back into YouTube as kind of a super hobby. And reason why I say super hobby is because I didn't want to put too much on
pressure.
Because I'm like, pressure. I have a lot on my plate already. I don't want to, call it a thing like this is not my job, because this is my job. I keep getting reminded.
It could be a side hustle, because I wanted to talk about the YouTube. That's one of the reasons we have you on here too. So let's talk about the YouTube channel, because I know we follow each other on Threads, and somebody was like, oh, where are the, I think somebody was looking for military families, and you were like, that's me, I have a YouTube channel. So talk about the inspiration behind starting your YouTube channel again, because I know you do vlogs and, day in the life, and I'm sure it is helpful for other women now who not only stay-at-home moms, but especially military spouses. So what's going on the YouTube? What's happening on the YouTube channel, girl?
Yeah. So, I've had my channel for, I think, 8 or 9 years. And when I first started my channel, I started it doing makeup more like a tutorial style. Back in the day, the girls was giving tutorials. So that's kind of, the girls are giving tutorials, honey. So I decided, you know what? Okay, I'm going to start my YouTube. I'm going to do the tutorial thing. I put it on hold for years and years and years because my makeup career just took off. And so I even beat myself up to today about like taking that gap. Like, I'm like, I should have just kept going, But anyways, I decided, okay, you know what? Let's start back on YouTube. Let's just start vlogging. Let's start dibbling and dabbling on YouTube. And I made a goal for myself last year. I was like, I'm going to be consistent on YouTube this year. And let's just see where it goes. I'm just going to show up and be consistent, and let's just see what happens, because I think that there's a side of me, Carrie, that still wants to have something outside of motherhood,
I agree with,
but I don't. That. You know what I mean? You know what I'm saying? I'm not completely settled with just, again, like just being a mom or being a stay-at-home mom. I don't think that would ever fill my cup, and I'm just being honest about it. You know what I mean? And I'm just trying to allow God to lead me in the direction that He wants me to go, but at the same time, just not forget about Brittany, not forget about what makes me tick. And I am, I'm a working woman. I am, but I'm not willing to work outside of my home right now, because I know my assignment is my family. And YouTube felt like something that I could do right here at the house with my family, and I could earn income, because that's important to me. I always want to be a financial contributor to my family's wealth. That's a big thing for me. And I haven't been in 3 years, and that has been hard for me.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's just to be honest. Like, it's been hard for me that I have not been a financial contributor to my family's wealth. I've contributed in other ways where, of course, my therapist has let me know, and friends have let me know, and my husband have let me know, like, what you're doing now is more than money. What you're doing, how you're contributing now is a lot more than a monetary thing. I get it. I understand it.
You're like, I hear you, but.
I hear you. I receive it. I hear it.
However.
However, but also and.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And so YouTube felt safe. It felt like I'm not selling a product. I'm just showing up, being myself. I don't have to, the risk is low. I don't have to risk relationships with people if I'm just showing up and being myself. The hardest part about YouTube, though, is being consistent and trying to find my messaging, So I started doing some self-care stuff on YouTube. I started vlogging my life, in which I'm still trying to figure out YouTube and like exactly how God wants me to show up in that space. But I knew last year it was just like, just start showing up. You may not know exactly what your quote unquote niche is going to be, or what's going to quote unquote hit for your audience, for your target audience. You don't necessarily know yet. I don't know yet, but just start showing up. And so that's what I did. Last year, I just showed up. Every single month I uploaded, sometimes multiple times per month. You know, I started uploading on YouTube and really started getting back into my content creating bag. And so, you know, content creating is something that I love. I love creating content. I'm not able to do it on a consistent basis in terms of having a schedule because my life be really life. I mean, right when I feel like this is a good schedule for me,
something happens.
Girl, I'm always reminded, ma'am, you are a mother first. Did you not realize that you were on an assignment here? Like, God reminds me constantly that I am on this assignment. And I'm like, okay, y'all.
Do you think, though, because you're doing content creation, I know you do it on social media and on YouTube, and you have a large following on social media, do you think it would ever be possible to do content creation more regularly, even as a stay-at-home mom? Like, if you were to work with an agency and do some, you know, even if that meant, like, you know, brand deals, but you have the flexibility of doing that from home, do you think that's something you could do?
That's a goal of mine for sure.
Okay.
That is a goal. That is something that I would love to do. Making that work, adding that level of commitment when it comes to having an agency and having brand deals and things like that, that level of commitment, I don't know if this is the season for it. And what I mean by the season, like, I don't think that I could even commit to something of that scale this week, this month. I'm just looking at my life, like this week of the things that we have going on in this month. I'm like, to make those deliverables, you know, in 2 weeks or 30 days, I don't know if that would add more stress to me. And I don't want to be in a place where I'm feeling super stressed. Like, that's not what this is about right now. You know, I'm like, I think eventually that will come, and I just need to put myself in position to where it's like when that does come,
you're ready.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
I'm ready. I've been, you know, prepping for this for a year or 2 years or whatever, and now I feel like the time has come and it's time to do it. Today, no, because I'm in the trenches.
But
I'm in the weeds.
You'll know when, though. I mean, you'll definitely know when. As we've learned from our experience.
Girl.
We'll know when. So I love that. Because when you were talking, I was like, I could definitely see her doing that.
Yeah. It's a goal of mine. I've written it down. I wrote it down for my 2025 goals. I don't know. This year is going to be a lot of transition. I can already, with my husband's career, we kind of know what's coming up month to month. So it's going to be a lot happening in 2025 anyways. So I went ahead and wrote it down. I wrote it down. I said,
write the vision, make it plain, child.
Yes.
Write the vision,
I was like,
plain.
you know, I don't know how this is going to work. I don't know if it's going to be available for me in September, October. I don't know if it's going to be available for me in June. But God, you know, this is what I do want. I would love to work with brands. I would love to do brand deals. I would love to have an agent. I would love to have help with my social media, somebody like an assistant to help me with it, whether it is editing or whatever. I do want to continue my content creator journey for sure.
It's happening, friend. It's going to happen.
Yeah.
And I'll be in the comments like, okay, brand deal. When it does, you know I will too.
Yes. And you know what, Carrie, I thank you so much for always supporting me. And hopefully you feel that love right back, because with us being creatives, I think that we're always wiggling to figure out how we can create, right? You know what I mean? That creative bug won't leave us alone. It just will not leave us alone. And I think that's what it is for me. It's like, I'm a natural creative, and outside of me wanting to be an entrepreneur and wanting to necessarily work, because like working is not it. Like I could get a job on base if I wanted to. I have a degree in counseling. Like even if I wanted to do that, if I wanted to earn income just for the sake of earning income, like we could do that, right? But I don't think that's the goal. Like the goal is for purpose You know, the goal is like whatever I do, I want it to be purpose driven. I want God to have me on this assignment. I want to feel good about this thing. I don't want to just go clock in and make money, you know. And even my makeup career started to feel very much so like clock in, clock out, which probably was the association with the feeling of there's more, there's bigger, like there's a bigger purpose for you to do makeup. There's more than your purpose is more than mascara and lipstick, you know? And right now, my assignment, my purpose, my goal is to just really nurture my family. You know, we have 3 little kids, 10, 4, and 2. I'm sorry, 5. We just had a birthday. Let's not forget.
She's like, she's not 4 no more.
No, my baby is 5. So, you know, 10, 5, and 2. And so, you know, just turning inward to my family and really giving them as much as I possibly can, you know, giving them the best childhood that, you know, me and my husband that they possibly can have, you know, and not forgetting somehow, some way, not forgetting about myself.
Yes.
You know.
I love that. So what advice, and maybe that is part of the advice, would you give to someone who's in a similar situation that we've been in? Like they feel like, you know, what I'm doing may not be it anymore. Or they feeling like they're hearing a whisper and a voice, like where they are right now may be coming to an end. What advice would you give them?
Be obedient. Be obedient to that. Obedience to me is, we know that obedience is better than sacrifice. And, you know, what's on the other side of obedience, the blessings, you know, the reward, not just doing it for that, but what's going to come along in the journey, the growth that you're going to have, the relationship that you're going to build. And I just would say, just be obedient to that. No matter what it looks like, no matter what it feels like, just be obedient to that call, to that whisper. Now, you don't have to quit your job today. Be strategic, have a plan, but don't ignore the whisper. You know, what does that, you know, receive that whisper like, okay, I hear it. What does that mean? And figure out what that means for you to move forward to doing whatever that whisper is telling you to do, because that ultimately will be the best thing for you. And I think when you are obedient, you know, you'll find that out later, like, you know, that was the best thing for me, opposed to you ignoring it and being disobedient to it. And then, you know, something, you know, that's just my fear, is something happening or whatever. And you're like, dang, I was totally supposed to not be here. I was supposed to listen to that voice, and I didn't, right? And now I'm here, wherever that is or whatever you're doing. So my advice would be to be obedient, be strategic in your planning, be encouraged, because you're hearing that, you're feeling that for a reason. You know, just you're reassured that this is for a reason. Like, it's not for nothing. You know, and that's hard. It is
very hard.
Yeah, I think for, you know, even if you are really spiritually grounded, and, you know, it's still tough, you know, and just continue to pray and seek clarity on it. And you may not get it. Honestly, you may not get
it.
Yeah.
Like, Lord,
you may not get it right away. You may not get the answer right away.
It may take years.
It may take years. And that's the realization that I'm coming to, because I've been here 3 years now, 3.5 years now. And there's no way that you would have told me, even in 2020, once I got that download to move to Japan and to expand our family so that we could grow our family and become more tight-knit and all these things, that A, it would be this tough, and B, after 3 years, I wouldn't be on to doing that something bigger that I heard, right? The bigger that I heard, I'm like, well, what was that?
We be like, so Lord.
Yes. And so for me, I'm always associating that with the career and money and things. And now I have to, you know, realize that it's more than that. It is these little human lives that I have been so preciously gifted, and it's just like, I have to turn inward to my family and pour into them, and God has taught me so much during this journey, but I'm obedient. I am obedient. One thing about it, I will be obedient. I will do this.
Amen. So before we go, because that was a good word right there. Okay, I would say be obedient, and I would probably add to that from my perspective is to lean into the discomfort.
Oh.
Because you'll be asking a lot of questions like, why? For me anyway, when I move back home, I'm like, so what do I do? What we doing? Okay, so what we doing? like I still have the 9 to 5 and all that, but I've always had a creative outlet. So I'm like, so Lord. Mm-hmm. And you just have to like lean into and push through that discomfort, ask the questions, and trust that whatever's on the other side is going to be bigger and better than we could ever imagine. And so just lean into it, be obedient, and it's going to work out.
It's going to work out.
It's going to work out. So before we go, we have a rapid fire.
Okay, let's do it. Oh, God.
Some fun questions. No, these are good ones. These are fun. They're not.
Okay.
These aren't deep. Because I did one interview, and one of them, it was for Bells Rings. Tanisha, she kept getting all the deep questions. She's like, why I keep getting all, we were like, you get all the deep questions, and Angel was getting all the fun questions, so no. Here's one. What was your first job?
My first job was at Wendy's, and I was underage. I was not supposed to work there. And that's how thirsty I have been for independence my whole life. Okay.
How old were you?
I was 15 and you had to be 16.
Oh. Mm-hmm. She said, I'm getting this money.
Yeah, I'm like, listen, I've been very driven my whole life, and so working just always felt like, oh, I can get this, I can do this, and I could do, it felt like I could do more if I worked. So I was like, I want to go get a job at Wendy's, and I was like, I'm already 16.
Oh, you just lied about your age?
Yeah, I pretty much lied. Yeah, but that was my first job. It was at Wendy's. Yeah.
Nice. So who was your favorite celebrity client and why? If you can say that.
Oh my gosh, I don't want to say that out loud.
Okay. I'm like, will it get you in trouble? Or, okay, if you don't want to say the person, because I'm like, I don't know if it'll get you in trouble with your past clients.
I know.
Or do you have a favorite or funny celebrity client story from your work?
Favorite or funny celebrity client story? I can't say that two people. Let's just say this. Mm-hmm. Okay, here's what I'll say. I don't want to lie. Oh my God. Let me just preface it like this. I have been really, really blessed to work with clients that I have admired my whole life. Mm-hmm. Like my clientele were just women who are iconic women. You know what I mean? Phylicia, Rashad, Tyra Banks, Angela Bassett, Simone Missick. Like, these women are amazing women. Like, who wouldn't want to work side by side with them, right?
Right.
And not only were they amazing on TV, they're amazing in person. They're amazing in real life. Nice. And so that's kind of, sometimes I've heard stories where it's like they don't necessarily get that. But I was able to experience that. So, funny story about Phylicia Rashad. I think she's America's mom. Everybody knows that. So my mom would always be like, you want me to be like Claire Huxtable? I'm not Claire Huxtable. I'm not Claire Huxtable. And, in my head, I'm like, I would love to have Claire Huxtable as my mom. You know what I mean? And so it's thinking about, like, how often in my head she would say, she just would say, Claire Huxtable, you want me to be Claire Huxtable? And I'm thinking, like, I would love to meet Phylicia Rashad one day. And then I ended up meeting her and doing her makeup and, like, really being in her presence side by side, and like us riding in the car together side by side, and her beautiful spirit and energy is very motherly. It's very motherly.
So she's
it's
literally
very,
just like that.
Oh my gosh. It is so, I'm like, oh my gosh, my mom is going to kill me because Phylicia Rashad is my mom right now. She is totally my mom. So it was just really weird how that happened. And that was always what she was like, I'm not Claire Huxtable. And then I ended up working with Claire Huxtable.
Full circle moment.
Full circle moment, 100%.
Nice. What is your favorite one of your favorite Black-owned makeup brands?
One of my favorite Black-owned makeup brands. I have two. That would be the Lip Bar and Danessa Myricks.
Lip Bar's one of mine. I love Lip Bar.
You know, the Lip Bar and Danessa Myricks. Those are my two favorite. I mean, come on. Even the creators, they're beautiful women. Mm-hmm. Just, so.
Love that. Well, thank you so much, Brittany, for joining me today.
I'm
so glad
Carrie,
we could do this because we haven't chatted in a while. So I was like, this will be a good catch up anyway. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure, and I love that we had the same like pivot story. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on too is because I don't hear people talk about it a lot, because I think one of the things we've been conditioned is like, when you're young, these are the things I want to do when I grow up. When you're an adult, you get a career. But we don't hear a lot of people talk about what happens when they change careers or when things shift, right? Like, I've told this to people before, I don't think as kids or young adults, you're like taught to prepare for that things might change multiple times. Like in life, if we're lucky, we'll live a long one. And so our journey will have multiple iterations over and over again of different experiences. But a lot of people don't talk about like, oh, I was over here, then I was over here, and then I was over here. Because it's kind of like frowned upon to be doing multiple things or in multiple spaces. So I love when other people are like, yeah, I pivoted and I did something else too. And I did something else too. Because I'm like, a lot of people don't talk about that. So
yeah. And I saw oh, yes, you're welcome. I was going to say real quick, like I saw a meme on Instagram that was like, reinvent yourself as many times as you need to.
That part.
And I was like, you know what? All right, I will. As many times as necessary as you need to. And just like you said, embracing that pivot. Mm-hmm. So yes, thank you, Carrie.
Okay, Brittany. So before we wrap up, please tell the people where they can find you so they can subscribe to the YouTube channel. They can support all their content, get those numbers up for when the time is right. So where can we check you out online?
Okay, I am at Brittany Ingram Beauty on all platforms. That's BRITTANY, Ingram, INGRAM, Beauty, on Instagram, on TikTok, and on YouTube.
So you guys make sure you check out Brittany. I'll have all her information in the show notes. So thank you so much, everyone, for tuning into this episode. Make sure you subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on all the podcast platforms, and we will catch you next time. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Kickback with Carrie podcast. Make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. The Kickback with Carrie is available wherever you get your podcasts.